Welcome to
Fourth time it's a
Magetalk,
charm.
episode number 238. I'm Kalen, and Willem is here, forcing me to do the intro 4 times in a row. You know what they say, the 4th time is a charm. How we doing? T-shirt.
I'm good. Which episode number was it?
238. 238.
238. Almost 240. You're almost more or less 10 full days into Magetalk.
Yeah.
Count the hours.
Into, you mean
240.
into the reboot, you mean? Almost 10 full days into the reboot.
No, I would say
Two.
if once you hit 240 and you would say that more or less the episodes are 1 hour, it would be kind of a milestone, I think, for you. 240, that's if you take 24 hours a day, that's 10 days of podcast.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, 10 pure days. That'd be kind of nuts. T-shirts. Let's talk Magento Association T-shirts.
I think it's a good idea.
Or better yet, socks. Let's pivot this to a sock discussion. But the broader discussion, I know there's conversations happening around branding and stuff like that. There's are we gonna be able to use the Magento brand? There was the whole Magento as Adobe Commerce thing. I don't know if we need to summarize any of these things. I'm a fan of not summarizing at all. If you know, you know. If you don't, you need to pay more attention.
I don't know. I like to think that people listening to this that are not constantly on Twitter.
Fair enough.
I wish they were. But the whole thing is that for a year, I've been advocating for real brand representation for Magento on the Magento Association. So I have been on this open source task force for over a year. An initial goal was to plan the future of Magento, the open source product in that task force. So we spoke on a whole range of subjects, including the maintenance and ownership of the source code of Magento, but also the Magento brand and a couple of other things. Whenever something happened that we weren't so happy about, we took that to the open source task force meeting because Eric Earlway used to be there, who had a direct line into leadership. And he would tell them that, well, this thing about certifications that you're doing is not ideal. People are not happy about it. And then it's kind of the role that we had with Ben Marks. And instead of taking everything to Twitter, we used to have a direct line to someone that would kind of represent us inside Adobe.
You felt that you had
a bit hard now.
Somebody to talk to, and that's more complicated now.
A listening ear. Yeah. And so for the past year, I've been really pushing for Magento.com to be linked to a page that at the bare minimum doesn't say Magento is now Adobe Commerce.
Right.
And they've been using that tagline for at least a year now, since they redirect to this Adobe business page.
Right.
And I guess we had a whole episode about this. So I guess from that, people should know.
Yeah, and they should be caught up.
That we've been fighting for this for a while.
Yeah. And so there's so many things I want to say. On the swag thing specifically, like I want to start going nuts with this whole sock thing. This is going to be my whole new thing. So can we currently, I believe that currently we can use, when I say we, I don't know what I mean exactly by we, the association or whatever, you can help me understand. Can there be created a shirt, a sock, whatever, with the Magento Association logo? Is that currently possible? Could you go on Printful right now and do it and I could buy it right now?
So my personal opinion would be, as I've brought it to the MA board, is the branding of the MA is Magento Association with the hexagon, with the big M. So as the Magento Association, I am 99.99% sure that you can have your own branded t-shirts, socks, or whatever with the Magento logo because it's part of the branding of the association. So if you wanted to print a t-shirt with the Adobe logo on the chest and Magento Association under it, that should be well within the rights of the licensing that the MA has.
But what about
Adobe.
without the Adobe logo? Just the Magento Association logo?
That I don't know, because I still haven't seen the exact licensing deal that the MA has. So the MA has limited rights to the usage of the Magento brand. So that explicitly meet Magento and Magento Association. So they're not allowed to just use Magento as a brand.
Right. I understand that. Which is something we want to work on. I think that it would be nice if eventually the Magento brand could be used by the community. It's what we do. If they want the commercial side of things to move to Adobe Commerce, more power to you. Totally fine. Listen, if you want the entire Magento brand, if you want to gobble the entire thing up, which that's not going to happen because the Magento Association is its own entity. But even if in theory you wanted to do that, at least let's just make that decision and move forward. We will go whatever. We'll do what needs to be done. But this whole everything takes a year to decide is just, it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's managed decline. You know what I mean? It's not that anybody wants to go kill anything. It's just that, hey guys, let's take our time. Everything takes time. Everything, there's a process. Let's discuss. Great idea. Let's discuss that at our next meeting 4 weeks from. No, that's a great idea. Let's discuss that in Q3. So, and I get it. Everybody's busy. I get it. But what I appreciate that you're injecting is the urgency. And you also are willing to play ball. You're willing to get involved. You're willing to do 500 meetings. Personally, I'm not. I can't. I don't have the temperament to do that. I'm not saying they'd want me to if I did. I'm just saying that you're putting in the work, but you're also injecting some urgency, which I think is much needed. And not that you're the only one doing that, but it's part of what you're doing. So I'm all riled up about this, but there's
What angers me about this situation is that I felt the urgency a year ago and I did not let go of this. So every 2 weeks we had a meeting at the open source task force, and every 2 weeks I would ask Eric Irway, do you have an update yet?
Yep.
And he got to a point where he worked out a whole sitemap for a Magento.org website and a proposal and everything. And that didn't move anywhere.
Right.
I had a meeting with their leadership. Everything seemed to be hanging just on the decision of one person, and we spoke to that person, and it was said that there was a branding guideline or branding guideline for Magento. The brand Magento was being worked on internally at Adobe so that they could better communicate what Magento is and separate it from Adobe Commerce. Little results have come from that so far. But what angers me more or less is that I'm now continuing those discussions with Ritesh, the new board member, the new Adobe liaison at the Magento Association. And I'm trying to explain to him why it's so important and why it's so urgent. And when he goes into the organization to verify, and he says, okay, so apparently Willem says it's been worked on for 12 months. There are ideas, there's a plan. And everyone says, we know nothing about this. And the annoying bit is you build up a relationship with, I built up a relationship with Eric. I worked on that for 12 months. And then he leaves, and then they put someone in Eric's place that has no prior knowledge of the Magento community, the product, the ecosystem.
Yeah.
It was his very first Magento conference in New York last month for retail.
Okay.
So I very much appreciate that he's putting himself in that position to learn. He's a super nice guy. He's very willing. He's motivated. So that's all on a personal level. Ritesh is fantastic.
Right.
But it annoys me that Adobe chose to put a person without prior knowledge in that position, which feels to me like they're purposefully sending us back 12 months so that we have to restart the whole discussion about the Magento branding thing.
And it's like, whether it's purposeful or not, the result is the same. So like, sometimes we get into this debate: is Magento trying to kill, or is Adobe trying to kill Magento? Are they doing something purposeful? And it's like, at the end of the day, there's no way of knowing if it's purposeful or not. But the point is, and this is something I hear repeatedly, is that you had somebody had a point of contact. That point of contact is now gone. Turnover does happen, but there's somebody in the place now who is not at all familiar with any of the history of the situation or the community or whatever. And which happens. I mean, it happens, but like, yeah, so that makes sense. And like, so I got into a little bit of a LinkedIn thread with Slava on his post that he posted recently. And the gist of his post was, there's progress happening, there's things happening, there's things moving forward with the pull request thing, And my thing was like, my response was, and I think up until now, I've been hesitant to be real vocal about this publicly, because to be quite honest, a year ago, you were putting on this work. A year ago, I don't even think I cared, to be totally honest with you. I had gotten, and a lot of people go through this. You got me to care again. Like, you and others, I'm going to just say you. I don't care if it bothers you. You got me to care again. And so I care now. And so, but my point is that there is this thing of like, well, let's take time. And it's like, we need some urgency on this stuff. Like, I know that not everything can happen overnight. Adobe's a big business. They have business interests. That's fine. Look, I think about business stuff all the time. Most of the developers, open source developers, they think of me as the marketing douche guy. So I can put my head in that place of, how can we serve their business interests while serving our interests? And how can we speed this shit up a little bit? Is kind of my
the reason why I care so much about this, and I don't know how much this flows and this overlaps with what we said in the previous episode, but we hear that businesses are really hurting right now because the Magento brand is not being marketed. There's no brand representation for Magento, and they can keep the platform as healthy as they want. They can put technical documentation somewhere. They can keep releasing security updates, but as long as a merchant Googles Magento and the thing that they find is now a top 1 Google ad position for Magento is now Adobe Commerce. So if you Google Magento anywhere around the world, Adobe bought the number 1 position, and it says Magento is dead. It's now Adobe Commerce. And those advertising positions used to be taken by extension providers and hosting providers. And they are still there, but their advertisement is right below Adobe's advertisement that says Magento no longer exists. So we hear from extension providers that they are losing business today. Like, they see that the revenue from Adwords is going down because Adobe is purposefully advertising. If you Google Magento, it shows Adobe Commerce. So not just on the Adobe website, but also in Google, where the merchants are to search. And that feels so purposeful. That feels like it's really a kick in the nuts. Like, I go there with all of my, I go into these meetings with Adobe people, throw all of my passion in there and say, people, you need to help us because you're hurting us. And instead of saying, well, we're going to relieve you, we're going to take off the pressure, they double down on their efforts. Then what am I to believe of the fact that they say they want to help us?
I mean, so it's we got to move. We got to figure out how to get things to move more quickly. There were some. I was able to start talking a little more specifics with Slava in MageChat, which are obviously I'm not going to mention any specifics. I'm not going to get into any of that, but if we need to speed things up is the bottom line. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if you can talk about what happened in the last meeting. You had obviously tweeted about the fact that you were getting ready to bounce. You didn't tweet that you bounced, and I think a meeting occurred.
Yeah.
So
so it's maybe good to tell a little bit more about that. So I rage tweeted a year ago, if this situation doesn't change, I'm going to stop collaborating with the association and all of this open source task force stuff, because I put a lot of time in those meetings and trying to communicate them to get things better.
Did you say you did that a year ago? You did that a year ago?
I tweeted that the first time a year ago when they redirected Magento.com to the bitnet.adobe website.
Okay.
And last week, before the board meeting, I just came out of the open source task force meeting where I was expecting an update from Retash on the Magento.com thing and on the voting board for merge requests and such. And no one showed up. Like, it was only me, Vinay, and Stanislav, I think, and someone from Smith Buckland to guide the meeting itself. So I was like, I emphasized that I really feel like we now need to move things forward. And then I got out of an empty meeting. We quit the meeting after 5 minutes because there was no show. So I was just angry. It's like, okay, so next Thursday on the board meeting, I want to hear an update from Adobe on the Magento, the Magento branding thing. And it doesn't need to. I didn't need a full answer like, okay, we're going to do this next month or whatever, but just an update. And not every time I ask, it's, yeah, let me check. Yeah, I haven't heard anything yet, because that's just stalling month after month after month. And after 12 months, I just got kind of done with it. So I am willing to walk away from the MA if we don't achieve anything with Adobe on the branding thing, because I really believe the association is its biggest value that it has right now is that it can represent the Magento brand towards merchants and agencies and the whole ecosystem. And if that is at risk, if Adobe is so clearly trying to erase the Magento brand, then the association barely has any right of existence. Like, then they lose the purpose that they have. And I'm not gonna pour all of my energy into the MA if we don't get like the one big requirement is that we can work with the Magento brand. And if they take that away from us, if they're devaluating the brand so hard, then we need a new brand. And that would mean I would put all of my focus on MageOS or another form of moving moving Magento forward. And it's still like, we will have the Magento platform for at least 5 years to come. Adobe will keep supporting the code to whatever extent, but at least we can work with them. The platform is in a great place, like it's better than it's ever been technically. But we need more than that to pave our ways into the future beyond 3 to 5 years. And our mission differs so much from Adobe's mission. What we want to continue with the monolith. So that means we want to keep it healthy. We want to do maintenance. We want to remove stuff. We want to build new features and really have that platform flourish. And Adobe rightfully has other plans. They have a feature stop on the code base, which is fine, but we just need to be able to move forward with that. And with that, we need to be able to use the Magento brand. Otherwise, we need to focus on other things.
Yeah. So yeah, totally. And it's like, it's like, yeah, even if, and things just need to move a little faster. I know that I'm biased because I've never run a company bigger than one person. I tend to oversimplify things. You're much more moderate than I am, but uh, we got to speed this up, dude. I'd be happy to talk in my Slack. You guys can talk in it, but talk wherever you want to talk. But this whole wait another month to continue a conversation that already should have been concluded 12 months ago that's not going to work. Like, it would be one thing.
There has to be a plan. I just want them to share.
Yeah.
I want them to share what the tactic is.
Sorry. It'd be one thing if these monthly meetings were super productive. A lot got done. Everything was, like a lot of stuff got done from month to month, but that's not the case. Like, anyway, you're saying you just want them to share what the tactic is?
Yeah. So, I don't necessarily need to see that change next month, but I do feel that we need to be taken serious as the Magento Session board. Adobe created the association to be the bridge between the community and Adobe. And if they're just using it to take all of the energy out of the community and to take the wind out of our sails, then DMA has just too much bureaucracy, there's too much processes, there's too much that we need to constantly wait Adobe's approval on, that we can't move forward. And if they don't allow us to do more, then it's
just pointless.
Bring me any energy. It's sucking all of the energy out of our initiative.
Yeah. And another thing that Slava said in the LinkedIn thread was that, he said that what needs, the work that needs to happen is around creating proposals that get into the specifics on how things can be done that meet Adobe's business objectives and things like that. And my thing is, and I mean, what you described, you like, and it's funny because I was trying to loop you into this and stuff, and then now I have more context on this. It's like, dude, I have been you mapped out the sitemap with Eric, or you worked with him, and now he's gone, and that whole thing essentially disappeared. So it's like, I agree, like, and I know
collaborating.
And I know it's easy for me to criticize stuff that I haven't, and I know Slava and others have put a lot of time in to this kind of stuff. And I feel bad criticizing when somebody's put hundreds of hours into something, but it's like, when you say proposals need to be made, okay, fine. But if we're sinking all this proposal time into a black hole that isn't being addressed, whether it's a prioritization issue, whether it's this just isn't a very big priority for them, whatever the reason is, the result is the same. I can find the people to figure out the details. You can figure out the details on the proposals. That's not hard. We know who can.
We've addressed the biggest issue. We've addressed the fact that their main slogan, Magento doesn't exist anymore. That's critical that it changes fast. All the other things can take time. They can work on whatever message they want. They don't even need to put up a whole Magento page. And I understand they don't want to sell Magento because it's not a product they can sell. It's for free. So I
agree with that too.
I understand.
I agree.
So that's not an issue. But as you said, like, we can keep writing plans, we can keep giving them input, but as long as they end up nowhere, it's really a waste of energy. And it's not like, if I go and write some copy, do you imagine the marketing team at Adobe copy and pasting that into their website, what I come up with? Never. That's not gonna happen. So
that's not gonna happen. Yeah,
that's not gonna happen. And I'm happy. John Baxendale is taking a bigger role in communicating towards the Magento community. I think he's from the UK but works from Spain. He's
Barcelona, I think.
Yeah. Which is in Spain.
Correct.
He's responding to more of these Twitter threads about trying to get an alignment internally, and respectfully, he's at least the 10th person to say, I'm gonna check internally and see what's happening.
100%,
and I appreciate
100%.
all of those people trying to achieve something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said Adobe is a 1,200 plus person company. Of course, there's many islands, many silos, but it kind of feels like there has to be one person that has enough say in strategy that can just pull the trigger and say, okay, I'm going to send one internal email to everyone involved, and I'm going to tell them we need to stop communicating this one slogan today. And someone, you can't tell me that there's not one person that has that authority, even though it's not their department, even though it's maybe a product owner or someone in marketing, someone in sales, or whatever silo. There has to be some communication between those silos, and someone that can say, hey, we really need to stop doing this because we're killing the ecosystem, and we need this ecosystem for the next 5 years at least. Because it's hurting business.
It's an interesting way that you phrased that they need it. I don't know whether they need it or not. I think you could probably make an argument that they don't at all need the open source side of things. That doesn't change our position on the fact that it's important to us and we're going to push for it and advocate for it. And for us that are in that community, it's our whole thing. But they may or may not need it, and that may be the reason it's just not a priority.
I think there's at least one reason why they would very much like to keep the community and ecosystem around, and that's the Magic Quadrant from Gartner. They are in a really sweet spot on that quadrant, and that's one of the reasons is that they both have their composable commerce PaaS offering with microservices, but also open source, community, and ecosystem. And all of that combined puts them on the right top corner of the Magic Quadrant. And I'm pretty sure that alone is enough reason to work with the community and keep it around.
That makes sense.
And beside that, that's just there's still an enormous market, an enormous Adobe Commerce market that works with the monolith and this platform. And they will continue to do that for many years.
I mean, I want to believe that they need it, and those are some good arguments. But all right, let's move on to happier topics, man. Do we have any good vibes? Hashtag good vibes only.
It depends. Like I definitely had something to celebrate this week, but is it happy vibes for everyone? I don't know.
No, I think we should talk about
as we sat over chat. One person's celebration is another person's. What's the phrase for that? Yeah. No, we were very happy.
You had some good numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got forwarded a report, a graph that allows you to list performance, Google performance for any given technology or platform. And I put Hyvä in that graph along with some other front ends from Magento, and we did about 20 times better than other front ends
awesome.
Lighthouse performance and on Core Web Vitals. So on Lighthouse performance, we scored 20 times higher than PWA Studio. And that's on real stores that are live today. And of course, there was a lot of it started a discussion like numbers without context don't really mean anything. Some other platforms have much more numbers, much more live stores that have been analyzed by Google in that report. But for us, we have, as you know, almost 1,000 stores live. About 400 something were analyzed in this report. So it shows half, let's say more or less half of the stores that we have live.
You don't have any control over what it picks. It's just magically picking.
I have zero control. I don't understand why they didn't do more.
Yeah.
Because it uses Weaponizer, which is something like BuildWith. It's an online statistics site that shows you how many stores are live. So Weaponizer is from Google, or at least it's they work together with Google. Alan Kent is somewhat involved there, who used to be Magento architect.
Oh, that's cool.
But they have, you can see in Weaponizer, if you go there, there's 980 Hyvä stores right now, I think, that they have in a database, yet they only scanned half of those. Same goes for PWA Studio, they scanned half of it, and for other platforms, it was also a lower amount. So that's strange. I don't know why. But yeah, we were very happy about that, because we know that we see the sites that go live, we see the high scores, we see, of course, also stores that still score 20 or even lower in Lighthouse out of 100. But you can do that with any, but add Google Tag Manager and a chatbot and 10 tracking pixels, and you're there.
And you've been battling this mindset that PWA equals fast, monolith equals slow, non-PWA equals slow, like that sort of mindset or that sort of oversimplification. So seeing this completely objective and everybody, I mean, there's lies, damn lies in statistics. So statistics can always be argued. Data can always be argued. If I was in the wrong place on a graph, I would have thoughts about why I was in the wrong place on the graph. That's always going to happen. But the
argument is you can build a quick PWA. That's possible, but it's so much harder, especially if a front end like PWA Studio currently scores 24 points out of the box in Lighthouse out of 100. We score 99 to 100. So the starting points with Hyvä looks a lot better, and it's up to you to mess it up and bring that score down. And sometimes the implementation just is so complicated that you can't get around the fact that you'll drop down to 25. But if you're working with PWA Studio, you can still achieve high scores, but it's so much harder because out of the box, you already need to push to increase it from 24 to green circles.
And by the way, the PWA Studio thing is not even as impressive, because I think most of us assume that's the case. The thing that I'll mention that I know you're not going to mention is that you were also beating View Storefront by a good margin. And the only reason I'm going to bring that up is because we're actually having Philip and Bartek on the pod next week. So that'll be fun. We're like, it'll be a blast. I love those guys. We all love, we're all like friends, and he had on Twitter, he replied some reasons for different versions, older version numbers, whatever. So I'm sure that might come up a little bit, but that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing them in Madrid as well. And I'm a gigantic fan of View Storefront as well. But the fact that you were doing, that was to me what was a bit of a shocker, without being very familiar with all of the details of the core web vitals, all that kind of stuff. I was like, damn, like you're like ahead of them by a good margin. So yeah, man, congrats, good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting just to see what on average, it doesn't mean that any Hyvä site scores that high. It still depends on the implementation. but it does show that on average, people achieve it easier with Hyvä because so many stores. I think we had 40% pass core web vitals, which should be a lot higher still if we help our customers and educate them better and help them fix things. But sometimes there's no budget, or the knowledge is not in house, and a merchant doesn't care, doesn't want to pay for it. So you throw in a couple of functionalities that bring the score down. The merchant puts a video on the homepage, which brings the score down by 40 points. So there's just no helping bringing the scores, of keeping the scores up. But yeah, it's a good indication that people are having that success with Hyvä on average.
It's awesome, man. Very
so
cool.
How are things going with your new venture?
I was hoping you'd ask. Going well. I'm up to 100 and like I'm not going to open it up. I always close all my windows down to keep the windows to a minimum. I'm up to like 110 paid seats or so, which is pretty cool. I'm getting close to the basically it's the full-time income mark for me, which is cool. And but more importantly than that, like I think I see the conversations, I see the engagement ticking up. There's just it just feels like there's good conversations happening, both technical stuff, fun stuff, socializing stuff, job stuff. So I keep rolling out new things. So I added like a job section, a candidate section. I've been kind of recreating some of the Commerce Hero stuff under this kind of different model, no referral fees. I had somebody ask about like listing a business for sale, which has something else that I've kind of toyed with in the past, because people would tell me like, oh, I'm thinking about selling my business, or I'm looking to buy a business, and I would do a LinkedIn post about it. So I just formalized that with a section on the site. Somebody who happened to be a Dutch agency owner was posted their thing. And so I've already gotten them like 3 intros, which has been kind of cool. No referral fees on that either. It's all that I really like this about the model, is that everything's just baked into the membership fee. And I can do every job stuff, everything without any other fees, which that was the Commerce Hero model, which was cool, but it just sort of limits a little bit what you can do, and it limits the amount of value that can be exchanged. So it's been fun to have you involved, because you have a lot of stuff going on. You know what I mean? When I see you and I see Vinay, because I think initially you were like the second person to be like, all right, man, here's $100, do your thing. And it was just a dream, and now there's more social proof and stuff. And you've got a million things going on, but seeing you
like
participate in there. Yeah.
But I wrote you a blank check. It's like, dude, figure something out.
But seeing you, and I think you saw that I was getting excited about the community, and you wanted to encourage that. And I think it's hopefully doing that. And one of the things I hear from a lot of people is that we all are kind of nostalgic for that past where everybody was excited about the Magento community. And there's people that we would talk to and interact with who have maybe moved on to other platforms or other things. And so getting everybody to kind of just be together in one place is just kind of fun. So it's, but it's cool seeing you and Vinay in there, and, getting more active and stuff like that. And so, man, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, you got in some old school community, ex-Magento community members. It's nice. It already brings kind of the Meet Commerce vibe that I expect to have.
Yeah, like I talked to Fabrizio Branca because we've stayed in touch over the years, just talking on the phone every once in a while. And he's doing DevOps AWS stuff. He hasn't been doing Magento stuff for a while, but I said, hey, and that's part of the strategy with this community is that obviously there's a gigantic portion of it that's Magento specific. But if somebody is into DevOps, we're all working on similar things with DevOps. You can discuss that. If somebody's into another platform, we've got channels. So we break out different channels for things. And so, he hasn't been super involved in the Slack, but what I try to do is I try to figure out what people are interested in and how can I pull them in. I talked to Alan McGregor.
He might be reading. He might be just absorbing and enjoying all of the Giphies.
Yeah. But I got him, he posted to general and so that was cool. And I talked to Alan McGregor. He's working for an HR company, a company that does HR tech and stuff like that. But I said, hey, let's see.
I love to see his social media. Like, he's like a full-on farmer now. And he posts all these videos of his.
It's so cool. Yeah. He has a literal
rain came down and
it's crazy. Like he has animals. He bought a farm. He lives out, or I think he mostly lives out there. Which is something I've wanted to do. Like I'll see videos of that stuff, and I've talked to my wife.
It's Canada, right? Where he is?
It's Canada. Yeah, yeah. Which is totally cool. And so, like for example, he's interested in Elixir, which is some language. And there's another guy in the Slack, a Magento guy who's super into Elixir. He's like obsessed with it. So I created a channel for them, and maybe that'll, grow. But it's that idea of like, what are our different interest groups and how can we get people into groups to talk about stuff they're into? So yeah, man, that's the stat.
Important question. Do you say Giphy or Jiffy?
Oh, Giphy. Come on, dude. Let's not even.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a GIF guy. You're not a GIF guy, are you?
No, I'm Dutch, so we have a.
Oh, okay.
Everything's grungy with us. Groningen.
So is that how you say it? You say like
no, okay. We would say Giphy or a GIF.
Okay, good.
A gifje. In Dutch, you would say a gifje.
Yeah. I keep thinking about how you said it would be cool if I could understand you in Dutch because you're even more obviously like fluent and witty in Dutch, which I have a hard time imagining that because you're pretty witty and fluent in English, but you're like, bro, I'm on a whole other level in Dutch. You don't even understand.
Well, it's just, you can't make the same level of linguistic joke, like word jokes.
Yeah.
With double meaning and it's just, it still feels, even though English is, I think in English, like I had whole phases in Finland where I spoke so much English that I noticed that I started to think in English as well. Mm-hmm. And now with my work, it's also mostly because Fina is in our team, so we speak English all the time. So I feel my vocabulary is okay, and I've learned, especially in Finland, we all learn to not stay stuck on finding the right word for something. Like I wouldn't know how you call the water around the castle, and in a story I would say the water around the castle instead of getting stuck on the word for that.
Moat. Mm-hmm.
Moat?
Moat, yeah.
Okay, I wouldn't know. And it takes some time until you can, like, you make the switch and just talk without thinking about the words that you're using. But it feels different. Like if I listen to podcasts also between you and Philip, the older ones, it's like you have a different rhythm if you're making jokes in your own language. And it's, so that does feel a bit like a miss. Like if I would have these conversations in Dutch, I would be quicker in my responses. And,
I hear you. A
bit sharper, probably.
Yeah. Like I'm not as fluent in Spanish as you are in English, but if I practice a lot, I get pretty close and I can make jokes. Like it took me I don't know, 12 years of learning Spanish before I made a joke and somebody actually laughed. Like that's a huge milestone in a language. But still, even if I'm at my peak level fluency and I've been speaking it for a month straight, I'm still maybe only 80% of the way there of fluency with somebody who's a native speaker. So yeah, it's tough to get that like.
Yeah, it's especially once you get into topics that you don't talk about on a daily basis, then you start to need different vocabulary than what you're accustomed to. And it's often as soon as it gets really personal or emotional, and then I mean if you get into a fight with someone or someone is angry at you and you're trying to explain, I've had more than one occasion where I had a Twitter DM fight with someone where I was trying to de-escalate, and the more I wrote, the angrier the other person became. And it's like, no, don't interpret that like that. I don't mean, that came out entirely wrong. Like I'm just missing the right words. And in the end, it took 2 or 3 days for that person to cool off and then read back. And then like, it's like you can read a message with the intent. And if you agree to think that the other person means best, you can read messages differently than when you think they're being.
I know. Yeah.
If they're being ours.
Yeah. And then sometimes you'll read something, interpret it one way, and then you'll go back and read it and you'll go, oh, and then you'll interpret it like totally differently.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where emojis and Giphies, Giphies are such half of the time I communicate with my mother in Giphies because it's like,
do you really?
It gives you the exact, like on WhatsApp, everywhere. Like also WhatsApp, a lot of my communication is Giphies because they can strike the exact right. Yeah. Like you can be you can be a jerk without really saying the words or make it funny, but still like giving someone critique.
The right subtlety to it. Yeah, it's kind of a new, GIFs are kind of like memes, GIFs are kind of a new form of communication almost, I think. Or a new medium, but it's funny because you posted one yesterday and Vinay was like, on Twitter was like, how much time do you spend looking for these? And when he said that, it occurred to me, I was like, because everybody uses GIFs, right? It's universal, but a lot of times like I'll use the same ones over and over, but like you're pretty good. Like you post like pretty good, unique ones. Like you're pretty good at it, which is kind of cool.
What I hate is that if you use Giphy in Slack, it always shows what search terms you used. And I kind of like the magic of like, if you do it on Twitter or WhatsApp, it just shows the Giphy. Yeah. It doesn't show like what level of creativity you use to search. But it's true. Like, often I find like the exact right one. And then I already know like what Giphy I'm looking for. Yeah. And the one yesterday with the two boys partying, the two goofy boys. Do
you have your socks on? We haven't seen your socks because we were gonna both. Yeah, we both. Yeah, we both. I love it. Had to get that in.
First time I made orange swag.
Yeah.
So if you're just listening, we have orange socks that has a particular logo on it.
Big Adobe logo. That's funny.
Adobe logo, yeah.
It'll be funny.
But sometimes
I
spend too much time on finding the right GIF. Like it can literally take me half an hour. I'm in the kitchen, I'm cooking, and just quickly finding a response, and the rice is like becoming fudgy.
This is so,
ruining dinner. And my wife comes in and she looks at me like, oh, he's on his phone again. And it's like, I'm just writing a quick response.
Yeah, that's actually that makes me like, it's like as the CEO of your company, all the stuff you're doing, like I want you to have a certain amount of your time budgeted towards the right gift. Like there's something about that that just feels right. But we've got to get
it's
you
so much more important than getting on new website live, like which I've been pushing for 12 months.
And I think when I was there, are you 30 or 33? How old are you? 30?
36.
Oh, my bad. When I was 30, I think anyway, point is, I was really glued to the phone. And it's hard not to be, but we got to get you to unplug a little bit during the family time. Sometimes I see you doing stuff late and I'm going like, you gotta unplug, relax. It's hard and you're doing a lot. And
we're selling in we're selling in
different time zones,
48 countries.
Yep.
We have support in Slack that sometimes calls my attention.
Yep.
And I'm managing 4 Twitter accounts.
Yeah, no, I know. It's a lot. And part of me is glad that you're overworking yourself because it means good things for the community. But
yeah, but it's like now I have so many roles to play and I really try to strictly separate them. And I also try here not to make this like, this is Magetalk, and this is, for me, this is time to talk about the Magento community.
Yep.
And try to, I'm not strictly separating it from Hyvä because Hyvä's live, but
yeah.
But I do try to make this valuable for the Magento community as a whole. So when you give me access to the Magetalk Twitter account, I really look for things that are relevant for Magetalk to tweet. Same for MageOS. Same for Hyvä. Same for my personal. So I really split that out. But yeah, it's quite intense, the notifications.
No, I get it. And by the way, I wanted to, I actually added events to the website recently. I want to start making a kind of a nice central events location. And I know you had been wanting to talk about Magento community events. One of the things I noticed, Meet Magento Thailand is coming up November 3rd. And I noticed that the website, there's not a lot of detail when I Googled it because I was trying to find like a description. I was trying to find, so there's a kind of a bullet list of speakers on the Magento Association website, but it looks a little thin as far as the information. So that was just something I wanted to mention. I want to try to connect with I tried to connect with Eddie Tang yesterday. Who's listed on there. And so I wanted to kind of connect and, just kind of mention that and stuff. But
I love the amount of events that the Asian region is throwing.
They're on top of it.
I think, I think they have by far the most events worldwide this year.
Dude, I talked to Mulyadi Gio, who is in Indonesia and runs a very good sized agency out there, and who I want to say organizes Meet Magento Indonesia. He also, I think, has attended Meet Magento Singapore. Dude, Singapore is on my list of places I'm dying to go. So we might have to go. We might have to go to Singapore at some point together. That would be kind of dope. But Mulyadi was in our first agency owners private hangout session, MageChat session, and he was talking a little bit about some of the way they structures things. Dude, they have a solid agency, and I can't remember why I started talking. But events in Asia, they got a lot. They got a lot of stuff going on, and it's interesting because like one of the pieces of feedback I heard from somebody was on the association was that people want to get more people involved in the community and different things that are that are not as like not the same people that you always see doing everything kind of a thing. And, it's interesting because I don't know a ton of people in Asia, right? Like I don't know a ton of them personally. The ones who come to the US events, like Muliati, for example, is in New York, obviously you get connected that way. But it's interesting that you mentioned that they have a ton of events. There's a lot going on there. And I don't personally know a ton of them. So it'd be cool to just kind of increase the interconnectedness of
Absolutely.
people.
I'm starting to learn more and more, get to know more and more people in that region through Hyvä, of course. It would be fantastic to be able to travel there next year to one of those events. But yeah, I have a family with a young child.
No, I know.
So it's I can't go to all of the events. I already feel like I've never been to so many events as this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it costs quite a bit of energy as well, like to recover from New York. UK. But that's also, I mean, the way that I'm going there now is to be part of the event and have a sponsor booth and speaking and all of that. And then you want to go and throw meetups the day before and after. So tell me, are you doing a meetup at Madrid at MeetCommerce?
So okay, well, I don't know if you want to make it a MageTalk one, but I know you got a lot. We're taking the wives out there. We're going to do some each of us separately are going to do some non-work stuff. But I sort of was defaulting to let's do another MageTalk meetup, but I don't know whether, but then somebody asked me yesterday, like I have been getting MageChat members out to Madrid. I've got coupon codes and stuff. So it might make sense to make it a MageChat meetup. That'd be kind of cool. I could buy all the members a beer. That'd be kind of fun. But we could also make it a MageTalk. That feels kind of cool too. So I haven't decided yet. But
for me, it's going to depend a little bit how many days I'll have in Madrid. If it's like 2 or 3 days, then it's going to be tight. If we have 4 or 5 days, then I'll definitely be there. I will help you organize it, regardless. So and I won't be alone there from the Hyvä team. So you can always ask Sanne to arrange you a venue.
She's so good at that. So I've been going crazy with these events. I organized a meetup in Austin last week.
How was that?
It was pretty good. Eric was there. It was a blast. Dave McCauley was there. A bunch of people, ex-Magento, Chuck Chuckaloo, and a bunch of people. And there was about probably 10 or 11 people. And dude, it was just fun, man. It was super chill. But I'm really bad at the whole organizational piece, finding the venue, calling the venue, picking the venue. I had picked this one place, and my buddy Jonathan, we went there together to check it out. We were like, we need to pick another place. And so it was cool. But what I think the sweet spot for me is if I can just if I can try to get people to go and not have to do any of the actual organizing. I think that I was also going, like, I was hearing about the unconference in Germany. I was like, we got to do an unconference in Austin. And so I tweeted about that the other day. Brent did an unconference in Florida. So Brent, I think, is interested in that. And if I can just post about it and maybe do some outreach to get people going, that would be ideal. But Brent wants to turn it into a big commerce thing, which, listen, I'm interested in big commerce. I hung out with Aaron Sheehan the other day. He's there. I'm interested in other platforms. And at the same time, I'm more biased towards Magento. And so, so, we'll see. We'll see.
In what way does he want to make it a big commerce thing?
Well,
would they sponsor? Is he looking for them to become one of the main sponsors?
I can't remember if he said this publicly or privately, but I think they might have been interested in sponsoring, and so yeah, so we'll see. It's all very early stage. Like a couple tweets happened, and who knows if anything's going to actually happen or not. But I was thinking of it as like the equivalent of the German Magento unconference, MageUnconf was kind of the thought process that I had. I've never been to an unconference. It just has always sounded really cool to me. You know, like I hear you guys talk about them, and I think they just sound really cool. But
they are,
yeah,
they are. To be really honest, when Brent had his unconference last year, it was a MageUnconference, and I was about to be ready to sponsor it.
Okay.
And then I saw that other platforms chimed in to become a sponsor, and he expanded it to be not just Magento. So then I felt, because I'm fighting the Magento fight right now,
100%.
So I will support, and I will be supportive of anything that Brand does. And I think the whole e-commerce industry is all right. But I'm just like, I'm putting all of my energy into helping the Magento community. So that meant for me, I wouldn't put my sponsorship money towards that, which is really a shame, because I really felt like supporting the things that Brand does.
Yep.
And
no, and
for this, like,
yeah, and I think it's cool that you're doing that. You have a focus, you know what I mean? And you're focusing on it. And quite honestly, you're bringing a lot of people on board. I mean, you've gotten me re-energized about Magento. You've gotten a lot of people. A lot of people are, I know we're trying to not make this whole podcast a Hyvä ad, but a lot of people are happy or excited about work. And so I think that's cool. And, you know, it's, you know, it's an interesting dynamic, because some people are moving to other platforms and they're excited and they're doing cool stuff. And I see that as well. And I appreciate that as well. But there's this, I don't know if it's nostalgia for me, like for you, it's your business model is entirely Magento only. So it's business model plus the nostalgia, plus everything else combined. For me, it's a combination of those things. But that's kind of what I wanted it to be, was a Magento thing. Obviously, BigCommerce has a huge presence in Austin. And the thing that's interesting to me about the unconference is it's really the attendees that determine everything. This, you know, my understanding of it is that it's very lightweight. You don't need a lot of money for it. You don't need a lot of sponsorship dollars, I assume. And so it can just be really pure, where people go, hey, I want to talk about this. And then people vote on what they want to hear. And, you know, so I just always thought it was a really cool idea. And,
what makes the German one so good is that they do spend quite some budget on a really good coffee. Like, there's a barista who makes excellent coffee and smoothies.
Nice.
And the internet connection is always solid.
That's awesome.
It's like so they do make sure that all of the equipment and everything is in place. The food is really, really good always. So
makes sense.
That makes it, because the coffee breaks are as important as the presentations. I know some people just don't go to the presentations at all. They just hang around and catch up with people.
That's me, dude. That's all I'm going to do. It's just, I mean, maybe there'll be a presentation I'm interested in, but, and is it normally a one-day thing, or is it a multi-day thing, or?
They do a 2-day thing in Germany. Yeah.
So you get a hotel, you have to book a hotel and everything like that. Okay. Dude.
Unless you want to stay up all night.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Dude, yeah, we gotta do it. You don't want to come to, I'm already trying to love you too much about travel, but Austin would be strategic bit of travel for you potentially.
I would really like to go there. I would, but then we would need to plan it a bit further away. when we're in a period of time where there's not too many other events.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know if they would still have me, but I would love to go to the Adobe offices, the old Magento office, meet some people.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I've never really been, but well, before when it was the Magento office, I went there once for a meetup. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can all be one big happy family at some point. But, cool, man. Cool. Shoot, anything else or?
I didn't prepare a doc this time. We could talk about the security patches that were released last week.
Right, I know that's big,
for Magento 2.4.4 and 2.4.5, so only the last two versions. And the thing that caused a lot of noise or disappointment is that Magento 2.4.2, 2.4.3, at least 2.4.3 is still supported until the end of next month, so the end of November. But they initially didn't provide patches for versions below 2.4.4. And the whole communication around what the actual breach was and what versions were affected, it was very unclear. And even this morning, so it was last week, I think Tuesday maybe, that they released the new versions with security upgrades. And everyone was like, okay, so where's the patches for the older versions? And it's like, well, it's we're not going to provide those. So there are some community built patches from Amico, a Dutch agency. They started writing patches all the way back to Magento 2.3.7. And now last night, let's say yesterday, they released a patch for 2.4.3. But not for lower versions. And right now there's still a bit of confusion whether the older versions are or are not affected. Because Adobe's talking in terms of the supported versions are not affected. So we don't know right now. We don't know exactly if, for example, 2.3.7. First, they said that it had the vulnerability, and later they said, well, if you're up to date with all of the other patches, then you're good. But I'm not entirely sure. But as it's almost holiday season, it's almost Black Friday. Timing was very bad to not offer patches for older versions because merchants are just not focusing on upgrading right now. They will wait until after Black Friday. Everyone's planning for Black Friday right now. So having patches for the older versions is just crucial right now. Otherwise, you'll get another MageCart thing. It was a level 10 security risk, which is the highest level. So it's full admin access, full root access to Magento. But they classified it as level 3 because it hadn't been exploited in the wild yet. But that means as soon as someone has reverse engineered the fix, they know what the vulnerability is, and you will see the first breaches. I wouldn't be surprised if it already happened today.
It's probably happening right now as we speak. Question.
So it's crucial to patch quick.
You have a great sample set of Magento instances with Hyvä customers. Do you track what Magento version they're on? Like, do you have?
We don't host the stores. Sell the software. So
and you don't do any callbacks or anything.
No,
Gotcha.
No.
Yeah,
we're honest people. We don't.
No.
Call home.
No, but isn't that okay to do a call? I mean, I know we talked about your licensing model, which I think is great, but I'm saying if you had a way to at least know what versions they were on, that would be in a I don't know, whatever backend pixel or something. My only question is like, I understand people are always behind the version on Magento, but like in an ideal world, they would be up to the latest version. And I'm curious.
Yeah,
you have an interesting sample of customers, which are, they're probably, I'd imagine your customers are probably doing it on average better practices than, the entire set of Magento instances out there.
We focus a lot on agencies initially. So, yeah, I think they're typically a bit bigger stores, or let's say more professional, without trying to be disrespectful.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
There's not many merchants that buy a license and install it themselves via FTP and just use the software without coding anything. There's basically always a coder involved when they work with Hyvä.
Right. Yeah, no, I think
it's relatively new builds as well. So we don't have legacy customers that's what I'm already run the stores for 5 years, because we only exist for 2 years. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I also got a ping somebody privately in MageChat about 237 about the patch issue specifically. And so yeah, that seems like definitely an issue. And again, it kind of comes back to, obviously their resources are limited, Adobe's, and I can understand from their perspective, they might say, look, we did the patch for this version. We don't necessarily have the time.
Hold it. What was Adobe's latest acquisition?
Figma.
Do you know what they paid for Figma?
Oh yeah, no. Trust me.
How many resources do you think Adobe has if they want this?
Correct.
It's a matter of how much resources they want to spend on it. It's
well,
not like they have limited resources. Yeah, that's by choice.
It's by choice. It's a question of what's allocated. So, and I understand you might decide to allocate something to one place and not to another. But I'm just saying, if the community has, I'm sure that like the community could knock out that 237 patch, or somebody probably already has. And
yeah, but the issue is it's not PCI compliant then.
No, I know.
Adobe
I'm just saying,
needs to deliver those patches to the commerce customers at least.
I agree. I'm just saying that if the community helped with that and they could just act on it quickly and review it on there and quickly release it. What my point is that in almost all these cases, the community can do probably the heavy lifting. And we just need them to put the official seal of approval on it. Kind of a deal, but yeah, I think probably something they should do. Yeah, man.
I personally think if they have paying customers that are on certain versions, I'm not even talking about open source customers, but this also included their commerce customers,
correct,
which were still on a supported version,
right,
for at least 6 more weeks. And even then, even if it were even if support ended a month ago, it would be a disaster for them to have another Mage card. Like a mass breach on so many stores will not look good on the Adobe Commerce brand or the Magento brand. The fact that it's called Mage cards, it's not even a Magento hack anymore. Like, it started with Magento, but MageCart expanded to all other platforms, but it's still called MageCart. Like, the association to the name itself,
is wild.
It happened once. You would not want to have that happen twice. I just don't.
Talk about brand
recognition.
It. Talk about brand recognition, man. That's kind of messed up. Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. Well, we're over our time, so thanks everybody for tuning in. And unless Willem has any final words, we will let you get back to it.
You all at MageChat. We'll see you there. We have all the Giphies.
We got Giphies for days.
See you next week.
See you next week.